Hello, Chunk Online students. I want to point out to you kind of how to do this part of the outline. If you're a person who wants to write all of it out and then transfer it to the main document, you can do that. Otherwise, it's just basically getting your background information and then you add more to it if you choose to do it that way when you actually write the paper. Like I said, some people choose to write all of it out in the boxes and some people write some of it. I'm just going to do some of it and kind of talk through what my thought processes are. If you remember back to the thesis statement, my practice one was just that it was a thesis about autism and that it's a spectrum disorder and it can impair a person's social interactions and quality of life. And so that's what I need to prove. But I also wanted to talk about the symptoms that it has and then its treatment methods. So my first paragraph would be about, excuse me, symptoms and, how it might impair their quality of life. And this segment would be more like how it can help them. And so this first one, I'm not going to do all the treatments, but I'll talk about the highlights of some of them. And so my topic sentence would be something like there are various treatment options for children with autism spectrum disorders. And then I would give some background information about what those are. And some of them that I actually know about would be like behavioral therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. There's also called RIT, which is relational intervention therapy. And then there's some other ones that are integrated with the like social, skills therapy. And there are different ones involved in that. And I probably would just do an overview of those. And if I want to take notes on those here, I could. Personally, I know what those are, so I would probably write those out when I get into my sentences, and I would just kind of explain some of them. If I wanted to, I could, here are some of them here too. So I could click on here and I could give more information if I choose to. Okay, but it's really your choice. Like this outline is how you want to do it. I could go through and kind of look at my notes from my paraphrasing and talk about what ABA does, which is ABA therapy is applied behavioral analysis. And so I could talk about some of this, okay? If I wanted to. So that would be a way to do that. I could just kind of put a bullet point here and talk about ABA therapy and define it, etc. I'm just telling you what you can do as you're working. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just giving you examples. This is the quote that I found from that article that I just showed you. Okay, and so I would have that information on my annotated bibliography and also on my note-taking document. So this would be from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And there really isn't a actual author because it's all from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So that's what I would put here for my citation. Okay. Now I need to have an introductory phrase, and there's another video for this, but I would, in order to introduce a quote, you take the parts of it that are most important and then you give an introductory phrase. Because you do not want a quote by itself. So you don't want it just sitting here like this. So how would you introduce this? So you might do something like, whichever therapy is chosen, early intervention is key as the, and then it flows right into this sentence, so I need to have a capital. As the research shows that early diagnosis and intervention such as preschool or before are more likely to have a positive effect on symptoms and later skills. So do you see how I completely, right here is my introductory phrase, which is not a complete sentence, and then I blended it with this so that all together it makes a sentence. So I added this introductory phrase that will transfer from talking about the therapies to what's most important. So whichever therapy is chosen, early intervention is key, as the research shows that early diagnosis and interventions, such as during preschool and before, are more likely to have positive effects on symptoms and later skills. Then I would explain this. What does that mean? What does the research show? Okay, I would explain that when you do an early intervention, such as ABA therapy, like when the child is 1 or 2, you can actually retrain the brain. And so that sets them up for success, because the brain is moldable, but it's more moldable when they're younger. And so you could find that information on any of your research if you're doing autism, and then you would analyze that and confirm that these therapies do work and they help with the quality of life, which is what I was trying to prove. So then I would further summarize everything. Like I would summarize what the therapies are and how they, are important for early intervention, and how they can, again, talk about how those treatment methods can help with a person's social interactions and quality of life. Because I go right back to the thesis. It's kind of one more further explanation. This analysis, the difference is, this analysis is strictly about early diagnosis and early intervention. Further explanation combines what I said about context and background and the research to further summarize my point and connect it to the thesis. And then I do a concluding sentence that restates this. So I might say something to the effect of, although autism spectrum disorders can impair a person's social interactions, there is hope with early intervention and targeted therapies. And then I'm done. Okay, so hopefully that helps you, and good luck. If you have questions, reach out, and I will be looking over your outlines and giving feedback too. So make sure you get those in. Have a good day.